And welcome in to PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. And while it's not official yet, we can tell you that these Monday night Zooms are now going to be brought to you by the Costas Inn. The Costas Inn, always a great place to go eat, but even better for carry out at the great Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. I've got my friend Ross Grimsley with me. Ross, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and you brought in one of my favorite all-time Orioles, and it's really funny. When I went back over his numbers, I remembered that 20-win season, Ross, but how unusual is it for a guy to win 20 games and walk more batters than he struck out in a season? I don't know that I've ever seen that before.
You know, I mean, you would think that Mike walked a lot of guys, but it wasn't a control problem. He had pretty good control, and that's something I want to talk to him about. But I think it's something he wouldn't give in to anybody.
Right. It's like a Don Stanhouse problem.
Exactly.
In other words, he wanted the hitters to hit his pitch, not the pitch that they wanted. Let's bring him in now. He won 20 games for the Orioles back in 1975. His solo season in Baltimore, he was traded along with Don Baylor for Kenny Holtzman and Reggie Jackson before the next season started. Mike Torrez. Mike, thank you for doing the show with us.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Ross. Good to be with you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
What about what Ross says? In other words, the fact that a lot of times you walked, not a lot of times, but you had 3-4 years in your career where you walked more hitters than you struck out. It wasn't a control issue. It was a control issue that you wanted to control what pitches they were going to hit.
Well, you know, I'll be honest, my ball moved a lot. I mean, I had a lot of movement, and I think it was hard for a catcher and an umpire to really umpire my game because I had so much movement. Ball would dip and step. And here's an example. When I was with the Cardinals, Tim McCarver in Chicago in Wrigley Field, and I heard him say when he was announcing with the Mets, the toughest pitch I ever caught was Mike Torrez. He said, I had 5 or 6 pass balls in a game against the Cubbies. His ball moved so much, I didn't know which way it was going. And I was just calling strikes, and he was battling everybody. And the ball just had a lot of movement. And through my whole career, I always had, you know, a great sinker. I could make guys hit the ball on the ground. I walked a lot of guys, but I wasn't scared to walk them. Right. In certain situations, I'd walk the guy. I said, well, I didn't want this guy to get a base hit off me to bloop me. I said, I'll walk him and get the next guy and double play ball. I'm out of the inning.
Now, you told me just before we went on live and before Ross joined us, you and I were talking, you recalled a conversation you had with one of your childhood idols, Don Drysdale, when you were a member of the Cardinals. You went out after a game for a drink with him and Kurt Flood and a couple others. And
yeah.
Why don't you relay what he told you about pitching?
Oh, well, he said that he said, well, Kurt Flood, we went out to a bar and we had and Drysdale and a couple of the other guys from the Dodgers came in. We were playing the Dodgers in St. Louis, and he was always one of my idols. And you know, I threw against the Dodgers in spring training before the season started. And I just happened to ask him, I said, you know what, Don, what made you successful in the big leagues, you know, all these years? And he said, Mike, look, learn to pitch inside. Don't be scared to pitch anybody inside. If you learn to pitch, and I saw you pitch in spring training, by the way, he said, with your stuff, he said, man, if you learn how to pitch inside, you'll be successful. And I took that to heart. And that's how I learned to pitch inside, because in between starts, I used to throw the ball. I had my catcher and a hitter stand there, and between my warm-ups, I throw 20, 25 pitches inside. I throw 20, 25 pitches outside. But I learned to pitch inside to a left-hander, inside to a right-hander. And that's what made me successful. And like I said, I had a lot of walks, but it wasn't that I was so wow. It was just that I challenged everybody. I didn't give in to nobody.
Yep. And not a lot of home runs. Go ahead, Ross.
Hey, Mike, you played for a lot of different managers. I know Red Shandy's with the Cardinals, Gene Mauch, Weaver, McKeon, Billy Martin in '77, I think, when you won the World Championship. tell us a little bit about, compare some of them to each other. Weaver, Billy Martin, Gene Mauch. I know Brooks Robinson always said he wanted to play for Gene Mauch, and I'm going, really?
No, he didn't.
So,
No, he didn't.
he did too. I'm telling you, he said that. He told me that. Tell me a little bit about these guys.
The general in Montreal, I had him in Montreal for 3 years, probably 3.5 years. But he was such a strict person. He never really smiled, never had any inkling of like friendship. He couldn't get you come on over here and talk. But I will say he did call me in the office one time because we were having at that time a little bit of weight problems. Get my weight down. And he told me, he said, come in here. I'm going to tell you a story. He said, he said, remember, he had a outfielder who was rookie of the year, and Johnny Callison. If you remember Johnny Callison.
Yeah, sure.
He told me a story. I sat in his office. Gene Mauch told me, he said, Mike, here's Johnny Callison. I want you to get in that mood, in the mode. I told Johnny Callison he could have been $100,000 ball player, but he was just happy to get and do whatever he was doing, during his major league career. He was just happy to be in the major leagues and didn't try to get any better, didn't care about the money apparently. But I'm telling you, he said, you got to really bust your butt. And if you do, you're going to make a lot of money and you'll be successful. Don't never be happy with what you just had a good year. Try to better it next year. So I took that to heart, and I worked hard, and he punished me. He told me to go out there and run liners, about 20 of them every day until I got in shape, which I did. But I'll tell you what, I did get in shape. I was running liners all the way in the outfield, and he had me pitch run one time in a game. But and then Earl, I loved Earl. I was telling Stan that Earl was a funny guy. If you start walking guys, he always grab that cigarette and go back in the dugout.
Make it change baseballs.
It was funny. And he was really a great guy. I liked him. Of course, and then I had Red Shandy in St. Louis. When I first got into the big leagues, he was always quiet, didn't really say anything. He let the guys do what they wanted to do. In other words, he didn't really check curfew. He treated us like men. And, if you guys go out, just make sure, you get yourselves back in a decent time. And most of the managers I played with were pretty much that way in the big leagues. They didn't nickel and dime us about, getting in at on time and that. I know one game I was in, example, I was out coming in late in Texas. I was with the Yankees, and I hear a whistle. And who's that? I'm trying to sneak in. It's about 1:30 in the morning. And he says, Torrez. I go, oh, in the hell's I couldn't see. It was dark. And it's Billy Martin in the bar in the back. He's still drinking. He said, come on over here. And I just beat Texas that night. I think 1-0 or something like that. Shut him out. Come and have a drink with me. I said, who is that? Me and Skip. So, guys like that. But Billy, Billy was a good guy. He was tough. And, he's always arguing, he'd argue with you and you just try to figure him out. But, and then we had, Don Zimmer. Zimmer was the same way. He never really bothered anybody and let guys do what they had to do. And it was like Ross, Ross played all those years there in the big leagues, and they really probably didn't really, police us like
right.
Some certain managers would, I heard. But I never had that experience with any of my managers.
Yeah. What about that? I would have to say probably your year in Baltimore. Would you think that was the best year overall for you in your pitching career? I mean, you only won 100. You only won 100. You only won 185 games and only lost 160, which I don't think you get enough credit for what you did over 18 years.
Right. Ross, actually, I had a better year in Oakland. I won 17 or 18. I should have won 20 some games that year. That's when Charlie traded the 5 or 6 guys that we had on that ball club, and they let our team go for about a month. We ended up only 2 games behind Kansas City. Kansas City won it that year. But remember when Charlie traded all Bando, Rudy,
yep.
Gene Tennis.
Yeah, he traded all the guys. So just unbelievable. And then, but that year I had a 2.5 ERA and with Oakland. So I thought I had a better pitching year that year.
Yeah.
And I could have won the ERA title that year, and I ended up giving up a run. And Frank Tanana ended up winning the title that year. Vita Blue was second. I was third.
Stan,
we're talking with legendary pitcher Mike Torrez, who pitched for the Orioles in 1975. Mike, I had to chuckle a little bit, and if there's any way you can get your there you go, you're back on camera. I had to chuckle when you mentioned Gene Mauch telling you could be $100,000 player. I remember when that was the big money, $100,000.
That was back in the day, Stan.
That was back in the day.
Yes,
yep,
it was.
Yep.
That was a big thing, man.
But I wanted to talk to you.
The year 120 with Baltimore, I got a $15,000 raise.
Oh,
wow, that much,
good.
Huh?
Jesus. It got me up to, I think it got me up to 67,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay. I wanted to talk to you about your time with St. Louis. You were telling me before we went on the air that you said Gibby taught me my slider. And of course I'm going, who's he? I said, who's Gibby? And he's of course Bob Gibson.
Right.
What did he come over? Was he watching you pitch, or did you ask him some questions, or did he watch you and say, hey, I think I can help you?
No, I always wanted to learn. I lockered right, I was fortunate enough to locker right next to Gibby.
Okay.
And he had two lockers and I only had one. So, but after watching him pitch, in games, he had a great slider. That slider would just, and if you watched all the games I was watching, I said, what is that pitch he keeps throwing? I love it. So one night after a game, I asked Gibby, hey, will you show me how to throw that slider? And he says to me, God damn it, Rook, listen, I'll be here at 2:00 tomorrow at the stadium. And if you're not here tomorrow, I'm going to kick your butt. I go, I'll be here, Gibby. I'll be here. So he started with me maybe only about 20, 30 feet. And he said, off center, he had me grab it. And I grabbed it and off center the ball. And he said, when you see, it's like, if you can imagine like an airplane engine, turning this way and the ball starts, try to see if you can see a black dot. If you can see a black dot, that means you're starting to throw the ball correctly. And that's how I started. And for about 5 days, he taught me. We backed up 5 feet, 6 feet every day. And, I kept extending it. And I got the feel of it. And then after I got the feel of it, it felt great. And I said, man, that feels good. I love it. So that, Gibby taught me the slider. And I think it kept me in the game a lot. And then George Bamberger taught me the curveball, because I never really had a curveball until I went to Baltimore and we worked on it. And then I came down with a pretty damn good curveball.
That's what my next question was going to be. We always talk to different players about the managers they had. How about the pitching coaches you had? I know you had Bamberger in Baltimore the one year. Who else helped you during your career?
I'll tell you, Bambi to me was the best pitching coach that I had
you ever had.
Career. Yeah. I had Cal McLish. He taught me the sinker, how to get on top of the sinker a little bit more, even though my ball had a lot of movement, and that was up in Montreal. In St. Louis, I had Billy Muffett. Billy Muffett was not really my type of a guy pitcher. He was more like an off-speed type pitcher, and I was more of a power pitcher. And so I try to pick up little things from guys. And not everything that every pitching coach works with you is going to, work for you. And right. As Ross will tell you, there's certain things that, will work for you, and certain things other pitching coaches will tell you that it just didn't work. But you listen, and you take, try to take the advice. And if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, don't kind of quietly, let it go away.
Who were your pitching coaches in New York? Was it Art Fowler?
Fowler was there. Cloyd Boyer.
Okay. And how about up in Boston? Who was your pitching coach?
Lee Stang. They had Lee Stanger up there.
The Stinger, yep.
And then they had Al Jackson. Al Jackson was there for a little bit also. And, he was a left-handed pitcher and Stanger. So different type pitchers than I was,
But
Bamberger
was
the best. He was the best. That he taught me how to really be a pitcher. And you know what? He taught me how to just be confident. Even though I didn't have shit in the bullpen before a game, he would tell me how great everything was. Oh, you're great. That looks great. He never was negative. And that's the thing that I'd look at. I'd look and I'd be throwing. I says, is he looking at the same shit I'm throwing?
He must be blind.
That's some great
Bambi
stuff.
was that way. He never was negative. He's always positive. Oh, that's great. Oh, beautiful. Oh, great. Oh, beautiful. Stay with it. Yeah. And I'm saying, man, I'm praying, hoping I can get by the first inning. But he was that type of a guy.
Yeah.
Ross, go ahead.
Yeah, we talk about the pitching coaches, but was there any particular teammate pitching wise? Because I know I learned a lot by watching, Fergie Jenkins, Catfish Hunter, Kenny Holtzman, a number of guys. I mean, was there any pitcher that because you can learn a lot by watching and talking and communicating with guys and having the older guys share some stuff with you. Is there any individual that did that with you, Mike?
Well, Gibby did with me in St. Louis. Of course, I had Steve Carlton was my roommate. He was a left-hander like you, and he used to watch guys what they try to do in certain situations, and after you got yourself established, you kind of knew what you had to kind of do yourself, to be successful, and you took that to heart, and and then you pick up little things. And it was a lot of times, I don't know. I used to talk like with Eckersley, and I used to talk when we were in Boston, and we'd work, and I'd ask him, how are you holding your slider? Different pitches, you ask different pitches. Well, how you throw this? How are you throwing this one? And again, if it worked, great. If you try it, if it didn't, then at least you tried it and let it go on.
Boy,
let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about.
Ross, can I jump in for 1
second? Go ahead, Stan.
I was just thinking that's a lot of wins out of those roommates. That must be about 500. That must be about 500 wins between you and Carlton. Boy.
Yeah, and then Eckersley and Tion, and then of course Jim Palmer. I there in Baltimore, I used to look at Jimmy and see, Jimmy was more like a. He'd get guys up. He'd try to get guys up by the shoulders and strike them out. A lot of times he always did. And, because his ball seemed like it always, has a rise to it. I wasn't that type of pitcher. I was a sinker ball, a slider ball, change up and, keep the ball down. And, but Jimmy worked the four corners. You could see that. And that's what made him successful.
Go ahead, Ross. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Let's talk about 77 with the Yankees. I know you were, you had a good year. You won 2 games in the postseason, which was great. But they had a team. There's some names on there. Randolph, Munson, Reggie, Chambliss, Nettles, Piniella. And pitching staff, yourself, Gullett, Guidry, Hunter, Sparky. Tell us a little bit about that team. I mean, there are some big name guys there, and that was looked like a pretty good team. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that year I started the season with Oakland, and then Charlie Finley ended up trading me to the Yankees for Doc Ellis, Marty Perez, and another outfielder. And so once I got there, I didn't show up for about a week or 10 days. Because my wife was having a baby up in Montreal and all that. So I was living up in Montreal at the time. So everybody was looking for me. But, once I got there, the guys really welcomed me. You could see there was a lot of craziness going on with Reggie and Thurman.
Right.
Billy Martin with Reggie. And it was like, man, I said, man, this is a crazy outfit here. But, once we crossed the lines, everybody came to play with that ball club. Catfish was hurt a little bit. Gullett was hurt off and on a little bit. And then Guidry in the second half of the season came on. They had Figueroa also as a starter pitching there. Then we had Holtzman. Kenny Holtzman was still there with us. And we had a bunch of good guys, and Piniella. Piniella and to me was probably the best contact hitter, big RBI guy when we needed him. Lou could hit, and so could Thurman. Thurman was a pure hitter. Both of those two guys that kept our team alive in innings. And Mickey Rivers, of course, one of the funniest guys in baseball.
Yeah.
Mickey, the quick, he could run, man, and he could get things going, and really just was a good bunch of guys, and we had a lot of fun that year, and then there was a lot of craziness though, the whole season. We didn't know if Billy was going to get fired. He got 5-6 times during
fired every other week, didn't he?
Unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, the news and but like I said, once the game started, we came and played the game, and we ended up winning everything. And I tell you what, I had really in the playoffs, now Guidry started the 5th game in Kansas City. It was best out of 5 at that time, and I always played myself better yet, because if I didn't pitch the way I came in relief for him, by the way, in about the 2nd inning. We were down 4-0 already to the Royals in Kansas City. And I hadn't relieved all year.
Yeah.
And here's one thing. Billy got me up. Cloyd Boyer told me, Mike, get up. Skip wants you up. I said, really? Already? And he said, yeah, because, Guidry was struggling a little bit. And I go, oh, hell. Would you believe he came out? I took off my jacket. I threw like 4 warm-up pitches. 4 or 5.
You were ready then. You were ready.
And in the bullpen. Now he comes back out to take Guidry out. And Cloyd Boyer says, you got to be kidding me. Mike, you're in there. I said, you're shooting me, man. Come on.
You got 8 more pitches out there on the mound.
It must have been 5 pitches. I only threw, and I knew I had about 8 coming
right
on the mound once I got it. Man, I ran so as much as fast, get the blood circulating from the bullpen to the mound. I knew I had those. Would you believe I struck out the first 2 guys, popped up the next guy, got out of the inning and shut him down for 6 in the 3rd innings. I think we ended up picking away and winning that game 6-4. Now, if I didn't come relieve and pitch the way I did in that playoff game, there would never have been a Reggie or, us winning.
Right.
People don't realize what I did for us to get in that 77 World Series. If I don't shut down Kansas City, I mean, Kansas City already had us 4-0. And if I didn't, pitch the way I did, because I hadn't relieved, I didn't see how forever. And then, but I did a good job, and I was proud of myself more so.
Absolutely. Well, you did a great job, and you were world champion too, buddy.
Right.
Hey, tell us, Piniella, and Piniella managed in Seattle when I worked there, as an instructor. He's crazy as a balloon. He does some crazy. Do you have any crazy story that he did or something he pulled off? Because I know he played right field with no spikes on. He threw them in the stands one time. But did he do anything crazy like that, that you can remember?
Oh, Lou, man, he did so many things.
You can talk about.
That you can talk about.
Lou did so many things. Oh, he always, Lou, I remember he used to pick his hair. He always pick his hair and look at it. Like what, I thought, what the hell? He must have a little bug in there or something.
Yeah.
Little things that he always did. I mean, just something different that he always did. But Lou's a great guy, and I always loved Lou.
Really?
Nothing bad that he did. I mean, with us, he, him and Billy, and then, but he was mellow for some reason. Looking back, and then we never just when we talked, it was nothing really mean or anything.
Yeah, right.
He was just very pleasant and all that. Yeah. But some of the crazy stuff, when he made an out, he throw the bat, throw his helmet.
Unbelievable.
When he was batting, I always walked to the other end of the dugout, get away from the bat, the bat and the helmet place where they throw him in. Oh God, he was crazy.
Hey, Mike,
go ahead, Stan.
Mike, the very next year, as luck would have it, you sign and go to the Red Sox, where you would pitch, I think, for 5 or 6 years. But 1978, your team in mid-July had a 14-game lead over the New York Yankees
Right.
And then the wheels started to slowly come off the cart. Do you remember what that was like? And of course I'm leading into the playoff game ultimately,
Right.
but
Well,
do you remember the sense that,
hell,
oh
I
no,
remember the day
they're
it
coming?
happened when it all
Yeah.
turned around for us.
Yeah.
Bill Lee and I, Spaceman, we were in Seattle, and we're going and says, get in a cab. And I was going to run early, and he was too. He was going to go to the ballpark to see how come he hadn't gotten. He was supposed to pitch the first game back in Boston, and get an early flight out, so he wouldn't, because we were going to get in probably about 6, 7 in the morning.
Right.
So anyway, we're sitting in the cab, and he says, it's kind of funny. Jack Rogers, our traveling secretary at the time, said, he hadn't given me a ticket, Mike. I try to see what's going on. So anyway, we got dressed. Zimmer was sitting in the dugout in Seattle, watching Seattle batting practice, some of their guys. And Bill Lee and I, who come out of the dugout, and Bill Lee's and Zimmer's sitting right there. And Bill Lee, if you remember in Ross, I don't know, in Seattle, you could hang from the dugout.
Right.
And Bill Lee was hanging right in front of Zimmer, like this. And he says, hey, Zim, I wonder, how come Jack Rogers hadn't given me my ticket? So when, I could get back early enough to start. Out of the blue, Zimmer goes, he ain't pitching. He says, Bill Lee says, what? You're not pitching. You're staying here. And Bill Lee says, well, what's going on? Well, you ask Haywood Sullivan. Haywood Sullivan was the owner, and Buddy LaRue. So
right.
And so Zimmer, and I guess what we heard is that because Bill Lee called Zimmer a gerbil head, and gerbil and buffalo head and all that. So I guess Zim got pissed. But anyway, they bought up Bobby Sproul from AAA, a left-handed pitcher. Right. Never won a game. He started 6 games for us. Never, and that messed up our rotation. We had Tiant, Eckersley, myself, and Bill Lee.
Yeah,
and Bill Lee knew how to pitch in Boston, even though he was a goofy son of a gun. I loved him. But he knew how to pitch, and we didn't win one of the games that the kid came up and started, and that started our downfall. Because
that's great insight. Yeah.
We were, because it really messed up our rotation. And so it was like, darn, Zim, what are you doing? So from that, I blame Zim for us, our downfall, because we had probably, we had a great team. The 78 Red Sox were, we had a lot of power. We wanted to flip. And then Haywood Sullivan wanted to play it in Boston. But, we were a better equipped power team to beat the Yankees, and we beat the Yankees better in Yankee Stadium,
right?
Because they were more contact hitters. Pinella, Thurman, the only home run hitter they had, and then of course Nettles and Reggie, but they were more line drive, got the ball up, boom, home run. But the other guys were all line drives. Mickey Rivers, Chambliss. Couldn't really say there was a home run hitter, but that I think really messed us up that year when he took Bill Lee out of the rotation.
And did they release him, or did he get traded to Seattle? I don't remember him.
No, he stayed there with us all year. He sat in the bullpen and also dugout.
That's weird.
They sat him all year. I mean, the rest of the year it was like, what are they doing, man? So that even Tiant says, what the hell's going on with these people?
Yeah.
So that leads me to one of the games you're most famous for, and one of the hits you're most famous for giving up, is the 7th inning, 2 out, 2 on home run to, of all people, Bucky Dent, not a home run hitter.
Right.
Take us through that, because you had pitched. I remember rooting for you that day. And you had pitched a brilliant 6 innings against your former teammate, Ron Guidry, who had been 25-3 that year, I believe. What happened there in the 7th inning?
Well, okay. I'd gotten the first couple outs, I believe it was. And then I think Roy White came up and blew me a base hit right over shortstop, second base. And then Chris Chambliss came up and I jammed him. He got the ball over the same spot over second, right in the outfield. And then, okay, I got 2 outs anyway, so I'm okay. Now Bucky's coming up, nothing to worry about.
Right. Not a home run
Yeah.
hitter.
Yeah.
All right. And, I knew damn well that, Bucky can't hit me. Yeah, I mean, other than just, the pitch was a mistake. But anyway, I ended up getting, it was 1-1, and then he fouled off. I was going to come in, and he fouled off the ball off his foot. And then at that time, Gene Monahan, their trainer, was over there putting the ice, spraying
the spraying the ice. Yeah.
And it was probably about 3 or 4 minutes while they were doing all that. And I should have, I should have thrown a couple pitches just to keep myself. I had great rhythm, a good concentration, everything. And I think just for that 3 or 4 minutes, I didn't throw a baseball just to kind of, get the spot, doing what I'm doing. And the very first pitch coming back, they were going to try to come in and get him, jam him up and then come back on the slider. I didn't get to come in. I threw it right back out the ball right in the middle of the plate. And he got it and hit it out the left. Yes, when I saw him hit it, it didn't sound like he hit it good. And I thought it was just a fly ball. And then Yaz is, hitting his glove and then he's starting to back up. And then he looked up against the wall and the ball just really went right over the wall. I went, oh no.
Oh, you didn't say, oh no, you said something else.
You said something else.
I know.
Yeah. But you told me that you and Dent have become good friends over the years. And
Right.
that home run, not that you would have wanted to give it up, it ended up paying off for you in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, the long run, we've both done a lot of card shows.
Yeah.
We've signed a lot of 8x10 photos, and that home run has kept me in the limelight. Yeah, so we become good friends, and through the years, we sign a lot of things together, and it's a lot of fun. Bucky's a good friend. He lives down here in Bradenton, close to where Ross lives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was the old thing that Ralph Branca and Bobby Thompson became good friends, and they made a lot of money over the years off of their relationship. Yep.
Yeah.
Ross,
yeah.
go ahead. Ross, go ahead.
Mike, all 18 years, several different clubs. What team did you enjoy playing with the most?
Well, I came out of high school with the Cardinals, and I really loved the Cardinals. A great organization, very, very fundamentally great teachers of baseball.
Always been that way.
That's why they've always been in the top, in their organization. They teach really smart baseball, good baseball. And that's what I learned from them when I came out of high school, because, in high school, we pitched once a week or something.
Yeah.
Never was used to going to spring training every day, every morning. And man, I tell you what, I don't know how you were, but I was so sore always for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Terribly sore because I wasn't used to it. It was like
every year was that way.
Job. It turned into a job, right? Because in high school, and then you travel, American Legion. Shoot, you didn't do anything, and then just every day though for 4 or 5 hours at spring training. Oh my God,
standing around. Hey, you speak about the Cardinals and their fundamentals. Now, I don't know. You pay attention to the game now, and you're watching the games now, and some of the what is going on. Give us your feelings about what's happening now in the game.
Man, I tell you, they're losing touch of what it's supposed to be. All these guys today, 2 strikes. That's why everybody's striking out. They don't know how to make contact with 2 strikes. They don't know how to move a runner. They don't know how to hit and run. They've taken that home run now. They've taken the great pitching duels away from baseball. Everything has to be a 3-run home run. If guys, they don't walk. They were swinging. They're swinging from their heels, and you can see it. I don't like it. And you know what? The game was turned into a 4.5 hour game. After an hour and a half, I'm done. I mean, it's hard for me to watch it.
Yeah, no, really.
I mean, that's why, because then they're so slow, and these guys all they still wrap all their hands. They step out of the, off the batting box, and it's like, oh, come on, guys, let's go. I mean, I went to the game here when the Yankees played Tampa Bay, and Kenny Singleton left me tickets. He was, of course, so I went to see him. And they had already exchanged. They brought in about 12, 13 different pitchers, and it's only the sixth inning. I text Kenny, I says, Kenny, I'm starting to fall asleep. I'm going to leave. He said, I can't blame you, Mike. I can't blame you. I said, God, these games are so long. I can't believe this.
Really.
Hey,
Well,
Mike,
what do you think
what
about
do you
think about this? What do you think about the lockout, and what is that going to do for baseball, the fans, the players? What's your thoughts on that?
Are they fighting? What are they fighting for, Ross?
More dividing up that gold chest.
Oh man, I'm telling you. Well, right now the owners, I understand, only pay about 20% of all the monies that they make to the players.
I think the general public is more leaning toward the players now than in the past, which was not the case. Even the media is kind of leaning more towards the players, but it's ugly. And I think the people that suffer the most are the fans. And I just don't know if this continues. There's nothing to bring them out. Before you had Ripken going for the most games. You had the home run guy hitting all the home runs and breaking the records, but you don't have that now. And I don't know what's going to bring the fans back, because they have a nasty taste in their mouth over this, and I don't know if it's going to really turn out to be anything.
I agree with you. Mike. I agree with you, Ross. I try to really watch the game. I know that I go to the Yankee Stadium to still do appearances and that, and the games are still, like you said, they're 4-hour games every night that you play. You're not out of there till 11 o'clock, 11:30, but I like to see them speed it up some way or somehow, get everybody involved. It used to be an hour and a half games, and you could play 9 innings, and but with all the pitching changes that they have today,
oh God, yeah,
the game's going to continue. They're going to add, every pitcher they bring in adds another 10 minutes to the game.
That cuts in the cocktail hour.
For sure.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike. Before we let you go, I wanted to. We always ask pitchers about pitchers, but I wanted to ask you about one player in particular. He's a Hall of Famer, and when you were coming up, Lou Brock. What was he like to be around? What made him so special? Because he had a real fire inside of him, didn't he?
Yeah, you know what? And it's weird because Lou didn't really speak a lot. He had a dry humor about him, and when he laughed, he give you a little really bitty little laugh, and nothing. He was not a loud person. He was not a loud person at all, and always kind of kept quiet, didn't say a lot. He just smile, laugh at everybody, and do whatever everybody. But man, I tell you what, he was one of the pure base run stealers that I've ever seen. Yeah, he could flat out. He would just look like he wasn't moving, boy, but he was. He could run. We had there's some guys in baseball that could run, and what's his name? The guy from Kansas City could really run. Willie Wilson.
Yeah.
Mickey Rivers was another. But Lou Brock, was as good as a person that you would want to be as a teammate. He just never bothered anybody.
Hey, Mike, we really appreciate your coming on with us and doing this. Maybe we'll grab you down the road a little bit.
Okay,
all right?
anytime, guys.
It's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Bring the fireball tomorrow.
Okay.
Stan, we have an Oriole foursome.
Just don't miss.
Who's playing? Who's playing?
Well, me and Mike, Singleton and McGregor.
Oh, that's a good
So we-
foursome. That's a
So
good
we got
foursome.
3 pitchers and singing.
Hey,
My money,
what's-
my money's on McGregor to somehow win the day.
What's McGregor's handicap over Ross?
Oh, I'm not sure. He's not a bad golfer when he plays, but he hadn't played a lot, so which doesn't really matter. So he's not a bad. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Have a great day out on the. Have
I
a
look
great
forward to
day
it.
out
I
on
haven't
the
seen
course.
him in a while.
Thanks,
All
Mike.
right.
Okay,
Mike,
guys.
See you
thank
tomorrow,
you.
buddy.
All
Bye,
right.
man.
For Mike Torrez and Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we want to remind you that our Monday Zooms, where we mostly talk to ex-Orioles, but we occasionally get in a Johnny Bench or somebody like that, are going to be brought to you by the Costas Inn. Not just great to go and eat at, but to carry out at the Costas Inn. We thank you for tuning in. I'll see you Thursday night. This coming Thursday night, Gary Stein and I will be on with a very special guest, and we'll be
Thanks,
back
Dan.
Thursday night. Thank you, guys.
See you tomorrow, Mike.
Okay.